Hi, everyone. I am so excited to see all of you here because this is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world to talk about. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about bartenders. So let's just get the presentation going. Here you go. If you want to just grab my presentation, you can get the QR code right here. So I'm going to give you a little background where all these numbers are going to come from. Over the last year, we've surveyed over 2,000 different bartenders from across North America. And that's where all the statistics that we're going to share here, that's really where all this information is going to come from. These surveys were conducted with a bunch of really amazing organizations like IWSR, CGA, and some independently by us at Lush Life. And we asked a number of questions that were the same across all of the surveys, which is where a lot of this data is going to come from. But it's also important to know that they were all geared towards specific projects and specific things. So there's a little bit of adjustment that kind of goes along with that. So let's move into what matters to bartenders in 2024. 94% of the 2,000 bartenders that we surveyed over the course of the last year said that social justice is the most important thing to them. I'm going to give you a little grain of salt, though. And I'm sure Charlotte can back me up on this. Every time I put a survey out and say, what kind of classes do you want? They all say health and wellness. And then when it's time to go to the health and wellness class, about 4 people show up for a class for 50, right? So keep a little grain of salt in here. I think the takeaway from that that 40% that said that's their number one priority. I think for a lot of them, what they're saying is they want to understand your story. They want to understand the reason why. They want to understand the authentic message that your brand and the value that your brand proposes. We also, but the sort of flip side, while they're saying they really, really, really are interested in social justice, they are fewer than 20% say that they're interested in charity or charitable donations. So it really, I think, comes back to that main point, right? They're looking for connection more than anything else. They want to connect to your brand. They want to connect to you. So you've got to give them opportunities to do that. We also found that by far and away, education is the top priority for everyone that we surveyed over the course of the year. 94%, that's where that 94% number comes from. That's what they want to see. We also found that very few are interested in large-scale, flashy events. While they'll go if they're invited, certainly, that's not really the driving reason that people are connecting to and are excited about brands. And ultimately, it's not really what they want. We got a lot of feedback where folks are saying, oh, those big parties, while they're fun, I feel like that money could have been better spent on X, Y, or Z. And almost always X, Y, and Z are educational platforms. So that is the sort of biggest takeaway. What we kind of found along the way is that trust remains the most important thing, and that trust can be developed in a lot of different ways, right? So trust can be developed through having a really fantastic brand professional who they can connect with and talk with. Trust can be built on your credentials, how you're made. Is it an ethically made product? Have you shared that story with them? But trust is certainly not who is going to have the biggest celebrity at their party. That is increasingly less important for this audience. I think that also speaks to what Melita was talking about around premiumization. So many of the younger bartenders that we work with, the more they perceive something as fancy or premium, the less excited they are about it. They feel like they're much more interested and are willing to spend money on brands that have these really incredible stories, these really great credentials, and who also invest in them. We have a little internal graph that we keep of which brands are in the most growth and which brands spend the most money with us. And it is 1-to-1. Campari America spends the most money across trade advocacy platforms with us, and they are in the strongest growth in the States. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And I certainly don't think it's just us. I think that's indicative of who's spending the most in that space. All right. So mechanics that work in 2024. Again, we're really looking at more than anything else, connection as being the top priority. Around 30% of bartenders that we surveyed said they were interested in participating in competitions across the board. I will tell you, once a week, a brand comes to me and says they want to do a competition. And once a week, I try to talk them out of it. I'm successful about half the time. there's just certain things that work better and don't work as well. And when you're able to provide education, thoughtful connection for folks, that's really where you're going to see the most success. The best mix of education and experiences when you can put together a home place trip where they can put their hands on the product, see it being made by real people, see where the water comes from, see where the grains come from, what have you. That's really where you're going to get the deepest connection, and that has been the type of project that's growing the fastest at Lush Life. Digital programs are something that before the pandemic, anytime I tried to pitch a digital platform, I was laughed out of the room. Folks thought there was no way bartenders were going to show up for digital programming. And during the pandemic, we just didn't have a choice. So we did quite a bit of programming in the digital space. And a little bit surprisingly, post-pandemic, we're seeing all of our numbers go up. Videos that we're getting, we do regular live stream videos that are education-based. We used to see about 3,000 viewers. Now we see as many as 12, not as many. On average, we're seeing 12,000 viewers. So there's still a whole lot of momentum in that digital space. And that can be attributed to a number of things, but I think kind of the core of it is that digital programs can be listened to, downloaded, watched anywhere. You don't have to get a plane ticket. You don't need a hotel room. You can just hop on in and listen whenever you like on your commute. And that's something that we really have seen quite a jump over the last few years, and we're not the only ones. I know that Campari Academy is seeing similar, if not greater growth in sort of the same space. So digital platforms can absolutely work. They're just little tricks to make sure that we're integrating some of the important touchstones, like making sure we're getting liquid to lips and we're educating around the brand. For in-person platforms, I'm going to put a big old caveat on this. The 2,000 people who were surveyed were all people who went to our programs. But these are the programs in the US that they were most excited in participating in 2025. I left this in here because I think it speaks to the overall point that community and connection are and education are prioritized overall in the group over large scale events, big parties. They're really much more, as a group, they're much more interested in connecting with one another, connecting with your brand. Which is exactly how I'm going to wrap this up. So the big takeaways here are that connection is key. People you all know, right? So few people are building and creating community. And if you can be a part of creating and driving a community, you're going to make a big difference in that person's life. They're going to be much more likely to buy your brand and use your brand regularly. So the more you can connect in a real way, provide real value, real education, whether that be in the form of a certificate from EWA, one of our favorite partners, or something as simple as providing a little bit of brand education in a way that's easy to consume and doesn't cost them too much time or money, you're really going to walk away with something really special. Folks are just looking for connection. We're all just kind of looking for connection and community right now. So the more you can help foster that, the better. And that brings me to that. If you'd like to reach out, that's my email. Thank you all.